Discretion is advised.
Happy Thursday, you're listening and or watching Pwnecast. This is episode 195 and we are in patch 7.3.5. Tonight we are going to be talking about all the patch 7.3.5 drama, the good, the bad, the ugly. And in honor of our very special guest, which you guys see here, we are going to be having great discussions about this year in eSports because big things, big things, big things. We have that and much, much more, so make sure you guys stay right here.
You have crossed in search of answers.
Amongst the Azeroth elite, there is a group that defies convention. A group that stands in the face of trolls and doesn't flinch. A group that strives on unity, trust, and unwavering resolve. A group that eats tacos. For the players, by the players, we bring you. She can start a revolt with a Chaos Bolt, Bell, the Pwnecast Vanguard.
With holy might as strong as his ancient knowledge, Remedies, the Argent Loremaster.
We bow to no one. We are Legion. We are Pwnecast.
Welcome back. I have this new fancy stream deck, so I'm trying to get used to using it. But, guys, I guess I should unmute these guys now, yeah? Should I unmute them? Are they ready for me to unmute them? They look like they're having much more fun without me. What are they doing?
So that you can visualize in there and then you shove your finger inside of it.
That was the worst time to unmute, guys. That was like the worst time to unmute.
We're talking about doing a chess tube.
Sure. Guys, it's showtime.
Hi, guys.
For those of you who are new, I am Belle, and I have my co-host here, the co-host with the...
Mo-host?
Anyway, I said that it was going to be a bad time. Remedies, and then also our very special guest joining us today is not only a great friend of mine personally, he is also a fellow PvPer, and he is a fellow podcaster. He is Windstead, and he is from the podcast Technically PvP, the all PvP all the time podcast, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, it's me and a couple of my good friends, Garrisar and Andolin. Garrisar is kind of the ringleader and most recent to join into the world of PvP. And then Andolin, who is a very avid PvPer currently. And then you have me, the washed up, guy who was good back in Burning Crusade.
Coasting on all your old classic achievements.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't even think I have that tune around anymore.
I got 2K in Wrath. Come on, guys.
Well, hey. I was a 2200 rated player back in Burning Crusade.
So, a while back, somebody sent me an email and they said, I have all these achievements. I need you to look up my armory. And I have all this stuff and all these things. And like most of that stuff was from like 2006.
Yeah, nothing current. Nothing current.
And he sounded like he was 12. So I'm like, are you sure this isn't your dad's account? Because I feel like...
Oh, gosh. You called him on it.
This isn't really you.
Wow, that's kind of rude.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying.
The funny part is that, like, so that was an account I had back in 2006, 2007. I caught, like, the very tail end of vanilla. Got my account, got very heavy into PvP. And then I joined the military and lost access to that account. I couldn't remember the email I used to tie to it. I couldn't remember any of that. And so I completely lost the account. And so I had to like start brand new when I got settled. And so like I am the quintessential like a-hole who's like, yeah, I was the 2200 rated player, but I can't prove it.
My mom says I was awesome. I remember in Kata, it was when I took my break. It was when the huge changes came out to Destruction and I couldn't deal. At that point, I wasn't so emotionally involved that I could just suffer through. I basically was like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And that was right before, like, I don't even know if it was called BattleNet then. whatever it was called before that we logged in, we had to do like this transition thing. I forgot all my
Oh,
stuff.
and then it merged it.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was prior. That's how I know I'm getting old, because I don't remember. But I had some struggles trying to remember my stuff, honestly. You would think that you would learn to use the same login information all the time, right? No.
Well, you would think that, but then the problem is that it's much easier to hack you and like take everything that you own.
I'm easily hackable because I have no security precautions.
Yeah, all my passwords are Jesus123.
Right. Mine is I love my cats. 42 is all my passwords. So feel free to.
Ooh.
So are you saying you're 42 or you want 42 cats?
I don't particularly like litter boxes, so it's probably not going to be a thing. The only reason we have cats now is because I have a teenager that can clean the litter boxes. Let's get into the quick news so that we can do the cha-cha, right? Because that's what the name of the game is. Obviously, 7.3.5 was live this week. We're going to talk about some stuff here in a few minutes, but let's talk about the quick things. The reset, which is going to be Tuesday, just so everybody is aware. I'm not talking about tomorrow or right now this week. It's for next week. The Time Walking Dungeon event is going to be next week. The PvP brawl that's going to be up is not necessarily my favorite, but it's a good one still. The Deep Wind Dunk. I actually dislike it a lot. Yeah.
I like that one.
The only reason why
It's
I don't
silly.
like it is because it doesn't seem like people grasp the concept of what to do.
Oh, it's completely hilarious, though.
Well, I have
Yeah.
no hops, so I don't like the battleground. So
And you're white.
exactly,
Right,
white people have no hops.
How
Right.
can you expect to be good at hoops when you're as white as you are?
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I can shoot threes. Okay.
I wear
Classic
basketball
white boy.
shorts, but I can't play basketball whatsoever. The Call
Heavy
of the
player.
Scarab, which is going to be, that's the micro holiday, mini holiday, micro holiday, whatever you want to call it. That's going to be the 21st through the 23rd. Now, an interesting thing here, there was some major rumblings over the Black Karaji war tank mount that was handed out to a very elite squad, very elite group of individuals. These guys were, you had to have the title Scarab Lord, and you got it in Classic. It was given to players who rang the gong to open the Temple of Ankh-Raj, like the gate, right?
I mean, I ring gongs all the time. Why can't I get a?
And basically that gate, you know, it can, if you ring the gong, it opens up.
It started the event. And all
Yeah,
that.
because before that it
started the insanity.
conceals all of Ankh-Raj from the...
workaround.
What?
There is a workaround. Not currently, but they're still adding servers in Kata, and you could go to a brand new server, do all the prerequisites, and still get the Scarab Lord after, because it was still like an open event.
But nobody could do it today, right? That's not useful for today. Okay.
You'd
I'm
need-
just saying, like, there's
they would need to make a new server,
yeah.
and theoretically,
I've
Oh,
never seen
got
anyone
it.
that
Well,
title it, so.
a little lore tidbit for you guys. The Scarab Lord is named Shiromar. Shiromar is a night elf priestess and a veteran of the War of the Shifting Sands. She carried the scepter of the Shifting Sands, rang the Scarab Gong to open the gates of Ankh-Raj, and began the Second War of the Shifting Sands, making her the Scarab Lord.
Shitting stands.
Look at me. Did I say shitting?
Remedy, she's totally stepping on your toes, dude.
I just...
Like
well,
that. That's like your job.
And full disclosure, again, I didn't know that she's talking about that, so it's all good.
I mean, it was only in the show notes. It's not like...
You added that this morning, okay?
I did add that last minute, but I thought that was interesting because I know we talked about it last night, and our buddy Murky had mentioned, you know, that this was a thing that happened and it only went out to a title people can no longer get. There was, I did see some of the forums, there were some pretty angry people. It's my favorite when people get excluded from something and they just like have full on meltdowns about how unfair the world is and cry. I'm unsubbing.
Isn't it funny that like most of the time when people are excluded for something, it's not even something that they're really interested in doing. It's just the mere fact that they've been excluded that they have the outrage.
That's pretty valid. But I mean, it's
like,
one thing for something a couple years ago, but literally like such a tiny amount of the population that's left in WoW has that title.
Mm-hmm.
It was just an interesting change that they did. They updated it all. I'm all for it because I mean, it's cool. Gives homage to those people, but literally, I've never ever seen anyone with that title.
Did you say homemade? You didn't say homemade.
Homage.
I
Like
Homage.
hummus, but not.
Homage.
I heard homemade.
Homage. Yes.
It's French.
Also, extended maintenance on Friday. So by the time most of you are listening, this is not going to help you out much to plan your Friday accordingly if you're skipping work to play WoW. From 8 p.m. PST time to 3 p.m. PST time, there's going to be a huge maintenance to fix various things that are broken. And that's what happens when maybe we weren't prepared, but I don't really think that was the reason. We're actually going to talk about that right now. So before we, well, actually, let's talk about some important things regarding undocumented changes, but not really undocumented changes because they were documented.
Oh,
but
this is just clickbait.
yeah, I'm not going to call anybody out, but it was kind of clickbait. I'm trying to get right with the Lord, so I'm not going to, call anybody out. But the Fuel of a Doom World quest and the Invasion Onslaught, which those are weekly quests for Argus, those now reward 1,000 reputation for both the Argustian Reach and the Army of the Light, which is great because you need both of those for, you need Argustian Reach for the Void Elves, and you need Army of the Light for the Light Forged when we get the ability to unlock those allied races.
And it was 250 before, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge, it's a huge increase, and which thanks a heap. I don't need it now because we did it the long and hard way because that's how we roll. And elite,
Crazy.
Any elite and profession world quests in Argus now also reward reputation for both Argustian Reach and Army of the Light, which is actually pretty nice because it only did one. So it's a 2-for-1, guys. 2-for-1.
It's a twofer.
Transmogging. They've basically made a change to kind of fit the new level scaling. And you can actually transmog higher item level, higher level. I don't want to say item level. You can transmog higher level appearances at lower levels. So for level 1, you can transmog gear up to level 60. For level 50, at level 58, you can transmog gear up to level 80. Level 80, you can transmog up to 90. Level 90, you can transmog up to 100. And then at level 98, you can transmog gear up to 110. Basically, this means if you have a higher level clothy or plateware or whatever, and you've collected these things, you can transmog them on your lower level, or you can use your higher level to farm for lower level, which it's a quality of life improvement for some.
Well, and the big thing, from what I think we might be misreading that. You can only transmog up to 60. So if you make a brand new character, you can only transmog the gear up to level 60. You can't transmog your current mog on your 110 character. Is that the way?
No, it's like for each phase of the level. So
yeah, it's each at each set of levels you get another cap that you can transmog up to.
Yeah, so you're restricted until you reach X level.
Yeah, but you were always restricted, meaning there was a lot of stuff that you could not transmog at lower levels.
Okay.
So
level, except the Legion.
They basically opened it up to allow.
Okay.
You were thinking it was the reverse. No.
Yeah, I thought they were like putting it. You can only transmog up to this.
No, that's how it used to be, but now they've kind of lifted that a little bit to give people more leeway, and then it ties into some trial style stuff and all that kind of good things. But I think I'm a transmog junkie, so that makes me happy. All my lower levels always look like they're poor because I either have to spend all this money on new transmog in the auction house, which Rem gets annoyed because I do that with every new character that I don't have gear like transmog sets for. Before we level, I have to spend like 3 hours in the auction house to make sure I'm appropriately attired.
It's 3 hours for getting her wardrobe in order, and then it's another 3 hours to get her UI in order.
It's so bad. The Unipet drop rate was increased. Now, this pet situation, I was going to go into this big, huge explanation, but I actually think I'm going to save that for another day because I actually would almost prefer to do a video when it comes to that because I feel like it may need to be done. But I haven't decided 100%. Just know that the Unipet doll has been increased. She drops from the Many Faces Devourer which is an Urzul, right?
Are you asking me?
I mean, you're the guy that knows stuff.
Yeah. It's that ugly looking.
Is this Burning Crusade stuff?
Oh, no, this is new.
Argus.
Yeah, it's Argus. So there's a little tiny Draenei child, and it's like her ghost. She's basically fused together with those ugly four-faced things on Argus. Her soul, it's really super dark and dreary, twisted story. But there's a secret. The Secret Finders, I don't know if they found it as of earlier. The Secret Finders have been trying to figure out her scenario. But I do know that it involves keeping her out. So if you have the Yuna, make sure you keep her out, because I know a thing happens with her out. I just don't know if it might have been figured out at this point because people are actively doing it, but as of earlier, they had not.
Those Secret Finders are bosses.
Gosh, man. I tried to figure out the Twilight filter for 2 days. Rem saw me literally having high blood pressure, visually high blood pressure. I was getting so frustrated. Then come to find out, you have to take a picture with Cho'Gall. I did. I got no filter. I was. And I don't know
what was going on, because she did two of the filters that we were trying to figure out. She did in both ways. And
I got nothing. I wanted to be that guy, right? That guy that like discovered the thing, almost like Christopher Columbus, except I wouldn't lie about discovering America. Like I would actually do it.
And you wouldn't kill a whole bunch of people,
right? And I wouldn't steal land that wasn't really mine, right? Because that's not cool. But I really, really wanted to be that guy, and I tried so hard, and it was an embarrassing failure. It's tough.
I mean, not embarrassing.
I mean, it is now, because now everybody knows. People didn't know that I had attempted it before and that I came up short. That's not even a
Well, I've met you in person. You're not a very tall lady.
I'm really not. I'm actually super not tall. I can pretend, though. If I
see over someone, then you're short. I'm sorry.
I have to buy shoes in the kids' store.
Yes. So she likes her particular shoes. It was the DC villains, yeah?
Yeah, the DC villains. They're loafers.
So she gets all excited because she's like, oh, I can get it from Journey's Kids. I'm like, are you... Jesus Christ.
They don't make them anymore for adults, so I have to go to Journey's Kids, which I shop at Journey's Kids anyway because I have tiny hobbit feet, so like little, yeah. But I did go, I trekked it all the way, an hour drive to go to the kids. And it's funny because, like trendy shops like Hot Topic and Journeys, like all those mall places, if you go to the mall, those trendy shops, it's always teenagers that work there. And like they're super young because that's the base of people, like that's the customer base is young. And they have like all their noses are pierced and they are all like emo and tattooed and half their heads are shaved and their clothes are all ripped because the torn look is in and all that stuff. And she just looked at me and was like, she goes, oh, these are for you? Yeah, they're for me.
You could have just lied and said it's for your kid.
I had to try them on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a sad life, man.
But yeah.
Regarding the scaling, so some things happened that were not intended. Well, at least we were told they were not intended. I don't really know that I believe that because I feel like it was intended because, I mean...
No, someone missed an exponent or something.
And it's funny. So the older raids, your Siege of Orgrimmar, like all those older raids, with the scaling, they're basically impossible to solo. Well, people solo them for transmog. They solo them for achievements, whatever. It's funny because maybe 2 weeks before the patch in PTR, I soloed Siege at no issue. So this had to have been when they brought down the servers.
Yeah, they're fine-tuning something.
They brought down the servers like the Wednesday before they announced that the patch was coming out. So it had to be kind of that time frame because I did the whole, because I was trying to do one of the filters for the Shah. So I did the whole Siege of Orgrimmar raid. I didn't have any issues. So it had to be during that time. But it's just really rough for old dungeons and old raid content to do that. So Blizzard posted that they're addressing the issue. I assume that that's what the large part of what tomorrow is going to be about, is them fixing and adjusting that. Now, I want to talk about, we discussed the level scaling. We discussed all the changes. I think we discussed that last week or the previous week. So now, having thought about it, there had been tweets and frustrated people tweeting to the devs about the personal loot option. What they've done is they've made everything personal loot for all the dungeons. I initially thought, well, that's kind of cool. Then I don't got to deal with, because, you know, when you're running the old dungeons, you just have to keep need, greed. You have to go through all that. I didn't think about the backlash from that. And the backlash from that is when people are soloing. Yeah, people that are soloing for transmog, they're being pushed into that personal loot. And that's kind of a negative, like an extreme adverse effect. So the outcries to the devs is that if they could make it a toggle, if you could just allow, you know, personal loot, just make it a toggle so that people can make that choice. That way it's a non-issue. I'm hoping that they'll address that. I think there was enough people to make that a thing. My only frustration is, why didn't this get dealt with in PTR? Where are the people that spent all the time in PTR doing beta testing or doing PTR testing? Did they post about it? I don't know if they did or they didn't, because I didn't see it, but...
You have to think about the people who would catch this. And it's the gold farmers, the transmog community.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't make gold on the PTR and take that gold with you. So why would you go on the PTR to make gold? And
yeah,
so
you wouldn't farm the old raids.
You wouldn't do it because it's just pointless. It doesn't help you pay for your subscription.
Well, if you
so now that it's live and all the gold farmers are in there going, holy crap, why am I only getting cloth gear? You know, why am I only getting male gear? It's because the personal loot is changing, and now there's the uproar because, you know, the transmog market is going to be in huge flux because they've just cut off supply for, and it's like the twink market. You know, the level 19 twinks, the level 29 twinks, all that stuff is going to be in huge flux because now in order to farm the gear, you have to be that level.
I hope Blizzard fixes that, but my only frustration is, and this was talked about openly on the forums, is regarding PTR testing in general. And we've had several discussions over the last 2 years about PTR and beta. I have a big thing about when I see people get beta and in their beta they don't post any feedback whatsoever. They use alphas and betas of World of Warcraft for the new expansions to stream. They use it to make videos. Nobody ever posts feedback to the forums to help make that better. There's people that do, but the large group of testers do not necessarily do that. So whenever we give away betas during that time, when I give the key to the person, in the email I say, please make sure you leave feedback and you test things so that we have to make this better. My problem with PTR, there's a lot of great people that spend a lot of really good time on those forums, because when I'm doing my feedback, I see other people's very thorough, very thought out, very logical and methodical posts regarding a lot of things in there. However, I see people that go on there and gripe because, you know, their Draenei's butt's showing too much, or small things that are affecting them, whatever the case may be.
I can't think of anybody that would gripe about too much Draenei butt, though.
You'd be surprised. There's a lot of, like, I don't want to say anything to offend people because I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. There's a lot of people that are super, like, burn our bras, we're women's lib, and everything offends. So,
well, I'm so confused about all of that, because you have, like, the slut walks, and then you have, like, don't judge me for my body, you know, don't sexualize me. It's like you're
practically naked in game. I agree. I live vicariously through Belle. I have daughters, and with having daughters, you come to realize that your daughters will not do as you say; they will do as you do. So I don't dress, overly girly.
To be honest, even if you didn't have the kids, you probably wouldn't.
I know. I'm really like
still be basketball shorts and a baggy shirt.
Yeah.
So.
I love dressing girly. I mean,
so does Rem. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because if he were to open if he would have opened his closet right behind you, you'd probably see things that he tries to keep secret. Look at him thinking. He's like, what do I have in there? So, he left his underwear here one time, and I was like, wow, those are girlier than mine. Super awkward.
There's a prototype for the Bangarang banana hammock. Okay,
the real question is, Rem, what were you doing over there without your underwear on?
Probably taking a shower? Question mark.
Maybe. I mean, unless he takes a shower with his underwear on, which he may or may not do.
I'm not that.
I don't know the dynamics of the relationship here. I mean, hey, you know.
I mean, him and my husband do things, so I don't know.
That's the answer. That explains everything. The girly clothes in the closet, the husband doing things. You got it.
They have a weird. Boys are weird. They have a weird. Like
boys are weird.
They have like a bromance thing. Where I'm like not in the secret club.
You're not really homies if you're not a little gay, so.
But like I'm not in that secret club, so I don't have their like their little dynamic of things.
If you can't be affectionate with your male friends, you're not really male friends.
I agree, except when you're a girl, it's not acceptable because then it makes you, you know.
Broho.
Yeah, a broho. But I had a point and I completely freaking lost. What were we even talking about? Oh, my transmog.
Talking about transmog.
So Belle, I live vicariously through Belle, and every expansion, it's my expansion mog. I pick something and I wear practically nothing.
Black Mage Weave, call it good.
Yeah, a lot of people like they're always like, "Whoa, wouldn't have expected that." I mean, I like her butt. She's a human, and honestly, the human butts are my favorite. When it comes to the female, I know that the blood elves, people are gonna be like, "Oh my god, the blood elves." I'm sure, but to me,
well, there's just not really a lot to. Well, I don't know how racy we want to take this.
Well, since I'm a girl, I'm a girl, I probably didn't pick it apart. Giggity. I probably didn't like think too much about it. I just really like to watch her run. Like she's got a nice butt bounce, and you know. It's good for me at the end of the day.
You know, it's always good to have ideals. You know what I mean? Like goals. And the character, the way she looks, the way she moves, that's a fine thing to have an ideal that, hey, I would love to look like that. You know? Have that physique, have that confidence. It's good to have ideals.
Then you hate yourself because you feel like you came up short.
If you never put the ideal out there, yes, you're in a safe bubble, but you will accomplish nothing.
That is very deep for Thursday. I need to start speaking to you like twice a week for my motivation because Rem's motivation.
I'll talk to you offline about a podcast I listen to that has just like blown my mind.
Is it Gary Vee?
No.
Thank gosh. No. Thank gosh, because I'm sure Gary Vee's a nice guy, but we've had our fill. Okay, moving on for timekeeping.
I have no clue who that is.
I love you for that. We will go more into detail with that later. There are some bugs in regards to leveling. The quest log is kind of weird. Sometimes it doesn't show your quests. There's lots of little, like, tiny random bugs. I also wanted to talk about the Lost Mail quest. I did the video for Method. It is uploaded. Most of you guys have already watched it by now. Hopefully you guys have gotten it. I didn't mention this in the video because it didn't occur to me, but if you don't want to farm the Lost Mail, just buy it out of the auction house. It's probably going to be $1 gajillion for the first month or so. However, I plan on doing it at a time when there isn't a ton of people on my server, and I'm going to get it because at the end of your journey with this Postmaster quest line, you get the quest to give to someone else. So I'm basically going to get it, go round robin to the circle of friends and have everyone pass it around so that the group gets to complete the quest. And
so like Monday in the morning.
You're so nice. My wife has been like camping that, and she's going to just turn and sell it right on the auction house for $300K.
Tell her to do it like 3 in the morning.
What a hustler. Jesus.
Yeah, no, I'm like, but you're not going to share it with me? She's like, no, screw you.
She's my kind of woman, though.
Okay. She is. You would like her.
I have to give my friends stuff so that they'll be friends with me. So it's how they put up with my 27 personalities. Because I have all.
I don't get any gifts. So.
I have all 27 of those personalities.
That's all a lie.
No, but I thought like it'd be cool for everybody to get it, and since I've already done it once before, because I farmed it for almost 2 months in PTR and could not for the life of me get it. And then one time it was random. It was like 2 in the morning when I couldn't sleep, and boom, it was right there.
Well, speaking of,
so make sure you get the lost mail, do the farming. If you don't want to farm it, buy it. If you want to make money, farm it, sell it, do the things, whatever you got to do. But it's pretty exciting. A lot of people are pretty like into it. If I have to be
phrasing.
Well, I mean, now you're making it weird. Okay. Let's talk about
Which part are we on?
Well, I just realized I didn't disclose that it was the what to do this week in WoW, and I basically said it, but I wasn't paying attention to what I was saying. So my what to do this week is the Dalaran mailroom, and yeah, I completely...
That's your what to do.
That was my what to do, and I didn't say it. Guys, this is what happens when old age, lack of caffeine, wife's DDoSing the podcast, dogs barking in the background. I don't think you guys can hear my dogs, though.
No.
No hearing the dogs. All right. Rem, let's talk about... I know... I thought we were talking about this next week. No? This week?
I thought you guys were going to spoil the raid.
No. That'll be next week.
Oh, next week.
That'll be next week, yeah.
Hold off one more week.
One more week. I don't like spoiling it.
Suggested to do it next week.
I didn't want him to spoil it for people, so we're going to give people one more week. Let's talk about Azerite, Rem.
So, since Azerite is coming out officially on live, we'll talk about what we know about Azerite and the Heart of Azeroth. In case you didn't hear about what that is during BlizzCon, if you're either A, living under a rock, or B, don't care, well, here's how it's going to go. So Azerite is a lot like the Well of Eternity. It is the lifeblood of Azeroth. I don't know if they're going to explain on why it is like in a crystalline / ore form, but it's pretty much the blood of Azeroth is such a weird word, but it's hemorrhaging through the crust because of the sword plunged into Silithus. Yeah,
that doesn't sound fun for anyone. Hemorrhaging crust is just not a good scene.
Better than hemorrhoids, but so it's gonna be it's gonna be a very powerful conduit for arcane power. It's a very, very raw form of the Titan's power, and so because power typically draws out the bad guys and the good guys, I figured we could make a little theory crafting on what kind of adversaries we will come up against, either through the rest of the storyline in Silithus, the Isle expeditions in BFA, potential story stuff. Maybe we'll find Azerite pockets on Cool Terrace and Zandalar, stuff like that. And then some of the confirmed stuff, because of Isle expeditions, would be Mogu. They are very arcane-eccentric. They are very powerful, and so they're going to be coming out from Pandaria or whatever pocket of them are surviving, and we will be fighting them on the Isle expeditions and potentially other stuff. And then Twilight Hammer, we've already dealt with. Well, if you've gone to Silithus, you've already dealt with them. They survived the sword going into Silithus, and they probably have caught on the fact that the Azerite holds a lot of power. And hopefully they can build up on that, because there's still but there's still plenty of damage that Twilight's Hammer can do to us in the world, because just because Cho'Gall is dead doesn't mean they have little guys with the brain to work stuff out.
So, 2 things. I'm thinking Azerite, all the crackheads from Surmar might come running, because this feels like right now they're smoking crack, but this is like the good stuff, right? This is the grade A, only in Hollywood, like only at Hollywood parties type of thing. So I feel like that could potentially be a situation, but also I feel like all the scavengers, like all of the scallywags and scavengers could potentially come out of the woodworks.
Oh yeah, you got
to try to mine
Bloodstone
this.
Buccaneers, you have the different pirate groups. You have the different factions of goblins. Not just the Bilgewater with the Horde. You have other people. You have the guys down in Booty Bay and Gadgetzan all over. I'm thinking that's what Kazan will probably tell on for that Isle expedition or whatever is going on with that. But
No, I like the way that Blizzard put it, that this is the nuclear arms race.
oh yeah,
We've just discovered plutonium, and
Pretty much.
now we need to figure out, one, what it can do, and keep as much of it as possible. And I'm really interested to see the effects of the novel that's coming out, and why decisions were made after this discovery of Azerite.
mm-hmm.
So,
And yeah, the book. They have the little prologue. If you went to BlizzCon,
is that out?
so yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
it's not out. I have it in my backpack. If we
You
can
probably
talk about
have
that.
it, and you might not even know
Yeah.
it because it's
Yeah,
in your. It
probably.
would have been in your the goodie bag that you got.
Yeah.
Wait, you
Yeah,
went
no,
to?
I had that. Yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
went to BlizzCon.
Yeah,
I
we
had
hung
it.
out watching the PvP tournament because I got ditched by all my
Yeah.
friends.
I didn't want to watch every single match. Anyways, going on.
He's not a
So-
lifer, Windstead. He doesn't know our dreams and hopes
Yeah.
or any of those things.
Well,
It's all about the story, bro.
Whoa.
Without story,
Yeah,
there's no
I-
PvP.
you're right.
See-
And PvP, I will admit, RP PvP is probably the most fun type of PvP. But
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
an RP
the acronym.
PvP?
Yeah, so it's like
Oh, yeah.
LARPing in WoW,
Oh,
but
yeah.
without the live action. It's actually pretty
So
cool.
I like message you and be
hilarious.
like, I just
Emerald
slit
Dream does
your
quite a
throat
bit.
with a really big knife. You lay there and bleed and then you die.
no.
Is that how?
More
Well,
along
that
the
is-
lines of
there
like,
is forms of that, but you have a open.
imagine this. If I may
planned
step in.
out.
If I may step in.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, go
so
ahead.
imagine you're in the battleground and somebody starts typing a very rousing speech of why you need to win the battleground.
I've already killed them
And,
halfway
like-
through their first word.
No, I'm talking about on your side. You know, the
I'm
battleground
not
leader.
particular, friend or foe.
100%.
Like,
Just these I've had a lot of fun with like really rousing speeches, like "Steel yourselves for battling the horde," and it just gets incredibly cheesy, incredibly silly, and it's really fun. It's
Mhm.
hilarious. I
But
like.
there is actual role playing groups where you do a duel or a battle, and it's like D&D in the game where you roll and all that good stuff. But
I don't do that. I'm talking about like you do a.
No, I'm just saying there's
you
different.
grab a bunch of people and go storm a Ogremar,
Mhm.
and you just like give rousing speeches and ham it up and make it silly and get really involved in it. It's hilarious.
does yelling for Narnia when the gates open or when the BG starts count
If you're
as
into that,
RP?
Kind of.
Because that's about as close as I get.
No, but what I'm really looking forward to, and I guess it kind of leads into, you know, a little bit of like the island expeditions and Azerite and what we're going to be doing in Battle for Azeroth, as it ties into the storyline involving player versus player.
That's actually, I was going to touch base on that when we started to talk a little bit more because, one, it's one of the modes and it actually increases the story on the faction war going on and our battle for plutonium Azerite. But some of the other things would be the Burning Legion. They're essentially destroyed, but you have small pockets of Dreadlords, Nathrazim still sitting around. You have smart people. Mal'Ganis, for as long as we know, is not dead at the moment, and he was a pivotal character during Warcraft 3. He pretty much pushed Arthas into becoming the Lich King. So there's a lot of stuff that can go down in terms of, because like I said, Azerite's extremely powerful. It's pretty comparable when we put it into the Heart of Azeroth to the power of the Well of Eternity that Ashara was able to tap into and when she was trying to pull in Kil'jaeden for the first time. But the Lich King has been quiet. Bolvar is becoming more and more like the Lich King if you've done the Death Knight storyline. And he could become not like a main character, but I want him, honestly, to become something bigger and become involved in this push for Azerite and maybe the story with the old gods. But we shall see. Ethereals will be a big part, well, not a big part, but because this is the groundwork for the old god expansion, hopefully, we will see the Ethereals towards the end, or maybe halfway through for the Azerite. We'll see what kind of stuff they go on, and then obviously all the minions of old gods will be running around.
Potentially, if one faction leader gathers enough, which I think they talked about a weapon, and one of our jobs is going to be either exploring the dungeon that holds the weapon or discovering secrets regarding the weapon that's being hidden that can destroy the whole world, like doomsday type of weapon. Is it possible, this is actually a two-part question, that the Azerite gathering could be linked to said weapon and perhaps the Azerite could be used in said weapon? And two, if one faction leader, or if there's a winner at the end of this war for the gathering of Azerite, right? Because it's not only just a Horde and Alliance war, it's a war to race to get the most of this specific Azerite. Mm-hmm. If one faction leader gets it more than the other, is there any potential corruption, or will it make them crazy?
I can't imagine.
Most of them are already crazy, so.
Anduin's not crazy.
Oh, he's a little. There's a little dark in there. Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about that.
You made this weird.
I'm just saying, there's a little dark in there, guys. I don't.
Well, and
Iron Man said it best. I don't trust a man without a dark side.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I really hope that with the because the quest has already started and I've gotten into the first part of the quest line that just got released with 735, so I haven't done the entirety of it. I've seen the clip and I've been told to go to the Syphilis to figure out what the Azerite is.
Yeah.
My hope is that they justify the war that's about to break out, you know, in a good way that doesn't make anybody bad.
I think there has to be a bad guy.
Well, and may I present to you a theory? Okay, because this is like my mind on how they could do it without making an extreme bad guy. I mean, because both sides could be. Basically, I'm presenting. You have two bad options, and each side chooses for themselves. Because we know that the world trees are basically tethered into Azeroth, and with the bleeding wound, these trees could be potentially leeching the life now from Azeroth, rather than like equal symbiosis because of the bleeding. It's now just like sucking it off, you know, and she's just getting hurt. And so Sylvanas could present to the druids that, hey, we need to stop your tree from hurting the world. It's causing a problem. And the druids were night elves were like, you want to cut down our tree? That's a terrible idea. We're not going to do that. No. And so then Sylvanas is left with this terrible choice of like, I have to stop the tree from killing the world because it's got its roots in there. It's sucking life force off of Azeroth. Mm-hmm. Do I hope for another way, or do I burn the tree?
Well, that's what was one of the theories.
That's what I would,
because in the concept art where it shows Sylvanas and the other leaders standing in front of Teldrassil, it's all lit up, looking like Azerites all over the place, sprouting out through the branches and all that good stuff. And then you see her standing on the shore when it's burning. That was one of the theories, that Teldrassil was a big source of the Azerite. So
the absorption point.
Yeah, that could be a
and to me that would justify burning the tree in a way that I couldn't necessarily argue with.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like, oh, I'm mad at you guys, I'm gonna burn down your tree.
The only thing that my only concern is I have a feeling that Blizzard's going to make it okay again at the end of the expansion, right? We're gonna make everything okay, and you know, we're gonna go live off into the sunset, Alliance and Horde. I feel like I don't want that to happen. No. I don't even care what the rest of the expansion is going to be about, to be perfectly honest. I am ready for that rivalry again. I am ready to not see Horde in my situation. I even said it the other day. I was doing a world quest, and Horde runs around and tags everything and doesn't even like respect your quadrant. Like, go to your little fucking zone and leave me alone. Stop messing with me. But
Wow.
I just kept saying like, God, I can't wait for BFA to where I don't have to deal with you in my situation because separate, you know, separate zones, separate leveling situations and all of that. I really hope, I want there to be a bad guy. I know at the end of the day that the bad guy isn't going to be what we think. Obviously, there's a puppet master here at play. And I mean, that's pretty obvious. I think we'll even discuss that more next week when we talk about Ogmon's Journal and some other things that we're able to get into in a non-spoilery fashion. But I feel like I want there to be, I don't want them to end it in a nice way. I want there to be a continuous...
I want them at each other's throats.
Yeah.
No,
So
I'm on the same boat, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we have to at some point because of the forces that we're going to be going up against. So, I mean,
I don't necessarily think so, because the Titans were always stronger than the old gods. I mean,
it's not like the
weird
Force
dynamic
where you have 2 Sith Lords and 50 Jedi, and the Sith Lords have the same amount of power as the Jedi. It's not how that works.
let me tell you my plan for BFA. We're going to go around and we're going to take all the Azerite. We're going to be like those people that steal the copper out of the house wires, right? The abandoned house wires.
No, too close to home, Belle. Too close
We're
to home.
going to take that shit to the pawn shop.
We're going to be the people that still rebar like idiots.
Yeah,
okay?
like we gonna make some money next expansion off this Azerite. I'm gonna open up a black market and we are going to just have a little side business dealing with this situation. No, I really want to see. I want there to be an obvious winner of this war. I don't want it to be a draw. I want there to be an obvious winner. I'm fine if it's not Alliance, right? As an Alliance player, I'm fine if it's not Alliance, especially if it serves the greater good of a more dynamic setup for a story in the next expansion. I do want there to be, I want there to be a winner. There needs to be a clear and finite winner. Like, we kicked your ass, or we got our ass kicked.
And that's where I really think because we're taking a step back in power level. You know what I mean? Because it took both groups to take on, you know, Sargeras, the Titan, the Dark Titan. It took both of us to do that. We're taking a step back. And remember, like from Chronicles, it talks about, how, I can't remember which Titan, reached down out of the heavens, grabbed a...
Oh, that was Amanthul.
Amanthul reached down, grabbed Ner'zhul, or not Ner'zhul, but...
the seven-headed god. He was one of the gods.
Yeah, but he reached down, grabbed an old god, and pulled it out of the planet and was like, huh, that solved that. Oh, crap, the planet's bleeding. You know? It's like, so we're not going up against as big a cosmic force as we just went against. And so it doesn't take both factions to merge to take it on. I'm with you, Bill. I don't want to play nice with the Horde. You know, I mean, I'm, you know, proud Alliance Blue right here. I want to kick some Horde, but I want there to be a reason that when I'm out in World PvP, I see a Horde player. I mean, especially with all the PvP changes that are coming to Battle for Azeroth, I'm flagging first chance I get. But I'm going to go out into the world. The second I see a Horde player, I want him to see me and both of us to try and kill each other. I miss that. I want that to happen.
I want that frustration of being such a patriot for my faction.
Yeah.
I want that passionate feeling. I think it's great that we're all friends, right? I have tons of Horde friends. I think that's all fine and dandy, and I respect your hustle. However,
if I see you out there, I'm going to kill you.
I don't want to dine with you, right? I don't want you eating at my table. I don't want to see you shopping in my grocery store. I need you
get out of my dollar run.
Yeah, like I need you to leave my French fries at McDonald's alone. Like I just need I need to not see you in my situation. But I really do feel very strongly that I think we're going to get what we desire, because I feel like we're not the only ones, right? Obviously there's probably tons of other people, but I feel like Blizzard as a whole in their storytelling process, I feel like they're ready to take it to that next level.
What I would love to see is like the final raid, and it's crazy talk, and it probably won't happen because of the amount of resources that it would take. But basically, your faction has an end raid. And if you want to see the end content of that raid, you have to play that faction. Because I have Horde characters. I play Horde characters every now and then. I don't like to do it. I feel dirty and unclean inside. but sorry, but
I share the same. I'm gonna have a horde that I play through because I'm gonna want both sides of the story. And
exactly. I love the lore. I want both sides of the story, but imagine, I mean, just think about the world first race on that. You know?
Yeah, no, that'd definitely be
crazy. That'd be
I mean,
insanity.
since they're having the faction dungeons while you're leveling, I feel like.
Well, I mean, you can still go back to the Horde or Alliance ones after you.
Yeah, but I mean during the leveling process, so maybe they could implement.
And so basically, and here's a theory for you. Each faction has access to their raid during the LFR process, and then when finally it's released completely on LFR, you can now access the other raid.
I like the way you think.
Interesting.
So that way you could still see content, and they would talk, and it wouldn't be. I mean, you'd be when you go in. They would treat you as if you were the Alliance, so that you can see what the Alliance saw and get that experience. But you could have it be that, hey, you know, if Queen Ashara is the end boss and Horde and Alliance are taking at her from two different angles, I would love to see two different raids going after her from two different directions. And
sometimes that's not all it's cracked up to be, okay? Just saying.
Anyway, but no, and what I would love, and pipe dream here, what I would love to see is a three-way fight between Horde raid team, Alliance raid team, and Queen Ashara. And like as soon as the boss goes down, Horde and Alliance have to fight, and the winner gets to keep the loot.
Like a fight to the death, where like
it's like you don't get you have your
40-man men enter, but like 1 man leave.
I wouldn't even do. I just do faction wins. Oh. You know, I wouldn't do 1 man. That's a little too intense. But hey, you want to be the last faction standing, and that's the group that gets the loot.
I don't want to stop until like half of my crew is dragging the other half of my crew's bodies with them. Like no man left behind. That's when we're done. When we're dragging the rest of our crew with no legs and stuff, like that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, kind of like somebody just posted out like the new arena brawl. You know where?
Well, it could be kind of like with Trial of the Champion or the Crusade. I can't remember which one is which, but you go up against. And you have to CC the other Horde players or the NPC Horde players. Kind of like that, but yeah, that'd be interesting.
No, I'm looking forward to what Battle for Azeroth is bringing. I really am.
So I don't normally like comment on chat stuff until towards the end of the show, but the Alliance are uber arrogant. Listen, I'm going to be really honest. As much as there's this faction like rivalry, I mean, I got to be really honest. I ran into my fair share of Horde that were not only arrogant, but were quite, what's the word?
Garoshian?
Uncultured swines. That's what they were. Just like Horde say Alliance players are this, and this. Alliance players say Horde is this, and this. I believe that sword cuts both ways, and I think it's an equal fashion. What happens is, as an Alliance player, as a Horde player, we don't really have the ability to see within our own faction and what our own people do. Let me tell you, there's assholes on both factions. There's assholes of every color, every creed, every size, every shape, from gaming to real life. That just is what it is. So while we fire shots towards the Alliance direction, I just want to be completely honest that, I mean, we're all pretty much the same at the end of the day, and there's equal good and bad on both sides. So
yeah.
And when I say, you know, I want to kill Horde, obviously I'm not talking about real people. I'm talking about the immersion of the game, right? The fantasy.
Oh, yeah. Depending on the person.
As Candace talked about earlier, she said this at its core, and I agree. Sometimes I do prefer the NPCs as well. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I don't really like the players, but our core part of what this game is about is intense conflict, rivalry. It's World of Warcraft.
Stereotypes are fun.
Well,
They're
yes.
Stereotypes are funny. We all laugh at dumb blonde jokes.
We do.
I mean, come on.
Some of us are the dumb blonde jokes, but like,
I mean,
I agree. I agree with Drum. Sometimes I do prefer NPCs to some of the players because sometimes it's you know. And I think a lot of the arrogance, if I were to have to make a guess, the arrogance on both sides, I would say, is probably the younger player base. I don't really think, outside of the I've been playing since vanilla and I walk to the school in the snow with no shoes and 6 miles every day back and forth, like outside of those, I really do feel like it is the younger generation of World of Warcraft players that just don't understand how to coexist peacefully while having conflict in game, right? They don't respect other players, but they expect to be respected, if that makes sense.
Yes and no, because I know like grandparents that are more immature in a game than a 14-year-old that I've played with. So
well, it's not a blanket statement. It's not all of them, but I don't really see. That's a lie. There's a couple of them that have been a little bit older that were not.
Especially that Velatrius guy in our guild. He's so immature.
He's my favorite person ever. But I feel like assholism is an equal opportunity employer, right? There's no.
You got your pussies, your dicks, and your assholes.
Yeah, like it's equal opportunity. So it's up to us to veer the new generation of World of Warcraft player in the proper direction. And if we feel like we can't do that, then we'll just do what Drom does and just go hang out with the NPCs and let them talk to us.
So Remedy, it's very small minority that can, you can be a dick. You can be a pussy, but you know what? Everybody's got an asshole. And only a very small minority can have be both a dick and a pussy.
I mean, I feel like that's me every day. But I think that we definitely got to have a full show about community, because I feel like this is a subject I can talk all day on, because I remember being camped as a younger... I'm going to say younger, but as a low level when I started on a PvP server, and I'm like,
what the fuck am I doing here?
I'm level 14, guys, and I'm a warlock, and I'm hitting shit with fucking sticks, right? Like, I'm stabbing things, and I'm just trying to understand what game I'm playing, and I'm trying to get a grip on things, and there's a level, I don't remember what level cap was, might have been 60, might have been 75, I don't really know, but it was a max level, and I was camped, just farmed every time I rezzed, farmed. This went on for 3 hours. I finally said, fuck it. I didn't log in for like a month.
Oh.
Why? What pleasure did you get? Like, behind your keyboard, you're super cool. But I feel like it's those moments that have made me more understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you haven't been camped, then you need to go get camped so you can fully understand.
Yeah. And Belle, you played on a PvP server. I blindly logged onto a PvP server. Had no idea what PvP meant when I first started playing this game, and got camped. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who haven't gotten camped by the opposing faction, you don't understand like the deep-seated rage that you harbor afterward. Like, you remember it.
Oh, I remember character names from my first PvP experience.
There was an add-on that I used to have that would like tag people. And so like when I had a max level character and I'd be going around with my low level characters, it would save names of people that you ran into from the opposing faction. And if I saw them at any time on my fully PvP geared Frostmage back in Burning Crusade, which Frostmage was pretty good back then, I'd kill him. I'd go hunting for my hit list. It was so wonderful.
My brother Dominic, I want to say, when was level cap 85 or 80?
80 was
Wrath.
Cataclysm.
I feel like it was Wrath.
No, Wrath. Yeah, Wrath.
My brother had a human paladin who was maxed, and at this point, Belle. It took me like 5 years to level Belle because I didn't have friends. I wasn't in a guild. I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know anything about add-ons or none of that stuff. I just played alone and tried to figure stuff out. I was on Natherzim, was the server I was on before I went to Argent Dawn. And I called my brother and was like, look, I need your help. Because I'm trying to quest and I'm getting camped, and I think I was probably maybe level 40 at the time. I'm not really sure. And he came and he killed all the things. It was quite awesome, actually, because then with him came his friends, right? Because he had his own set of friends. So I actually got to go through and level, but the good old days.
The thing I used to do in Wrath would be you get on your main character, go to that zone you're leveling in for the moment, and park it there. And if someone kills you, oh, am I going to log over? Now you're dead.
Yep.
So with the PvP, the announcement we were all waiting for happened, and I was really sad that when it happened, because it was like we had just had the show, and I was like, God, I really want to know what's going to happen. This time I didn't spoil it for myself. So although normally there are occasions when I may or may not know what's going to happen before it's talked about publicly, in this instance, when it comes to stuff like PvP, I stay away from that kind of stuff in my circle of friends when it comes to those that know stuff that tell me. So I did not want to know anything because I wanted to experience the announcement as a PvPer, and I wanted to hear all the things. So it happens on a Friday, which is the day after the show, and I was really sad that I was going to have to wait a whole week, but then I thought this is great because Windstead's going to be on, and that's the perfect time to talk about all the goings on.
And technically, he does PvP.
Technically, yes.
Technically.
Yes. Yes.
Technically PvP, which Jeremy McIntyre is the one that did the announcement. He's the one that for all intents and purposes runs that, right? He's the head guy of the eSports when it comes to that kind of stuff. And he is, I met him at BlizzCon, actually.
Nice.
I was talking to Jared, and not he went to Jared or Subway Jared, but Caster Jared. I was
Definitely
talking to him, and he introduced me to him, so I got to meet him in person. He looks totally different than he did in that video. It was really weird. So they talked about two things. The Arena Championships, so this is the year-long, which prior to these changes, it was a year long, but it wasn't really a year, right? It was like a little portion of the year, but it technically was like the year-long road to BlizzCon, which was not.
Well, it was like one arena every 2 to 3 months,
right?
Until like you got down to the line, and then you were like, oh, okay, now I've got.
Then it's like popping every other weekend. There's like stuff going on, yeah. So with the Arena Championships, the interesting thing here that I thought was, I don't even know what the word is, the amount of money that's going into these tournaments. I mean, I sat down and did the math and was like, whoa.
They doubled it.
So there's going to be 3 seasons. The spring season, the summer season, and what they didn't label, I'm assuming, is the fall season, right? I made that assumption just because they didn't label it, but around the time it happens is fall time, so it makes sense, which would be the very end right before you go to BlizzCon for the championships.
Yeah.
So for each season, there's going to be 3 NA Arena Cups and 3 EU Arena Cups. They haven't talked about Asia or Asia Pacific, China, or Latin America just yet. I think he said 2 weeks from last week's announcement. We'll see some things about how they get their money and how they qualify and what that looks like, because they've always kind of separated that until the very end. Then everybody goes together to fight. $10,000 prize pool for each cup. So you figure you have 3 cups for NA, 3 cups for EU. That's 60 grand just in prize pool money for the 1 season. Then you have 2 seasons, then you have 3 seasons. This isn't even, what is it, 250,000 for the BlizzCon winner? I feel like it's 250,000 for the winner. So this isn't even. Like,
I think the prize pool is 250.
Yeah, the prize pool is 2,000.
World Championships' prize pool is 250,000. Yes.
Well, the winner gets like 100 grand. I know that the winner walks away with like
a big chunk of it. Yes.
I really need to learn how to arena on Destro again because I feel like I really need that money. So what is going to happen there is the top 12 teams from each cup will earn the points. They've changed a little bit of the point distribution system, which I'm pretty happy about that because it was super inconsistent, and I actually had trouble following it last year when they introduced the point system. So this is going to be set up to where it's more consistency throughout versus it just seemed like they were just arbitrarily throwing points at people, and I didn't really understand.
You get points. You get points.
Like it didn't seem to have. It just didn't make much sense to me. Then at the end of that season, there's going to be the summer finals. The Spring finals, I mean. I just realized I have a typo in my article. That's awesome. So the spring finals, the top 8 teams from the season are going to compete. The top 4 teams from NA and then the top 4 teams from EU, they're going to compete for the spring finals. That's a $100,000 prize pool for the finals.
Damn.
So that's $60,000 for the cups. Then there's a $100,000 prize pool. The $100,000 prize pool is like, yeah, it's just half of what the BlizzCon money is.
It's getting to the point where you could, if you're good enough, live as a professional World of Warcraft player.
Right. So we need to get.
I mean, it's just the amount of money there. It's there because 4-man team, split 10K 4 ways, 2,300 a piece ish. I mean, you're looking really darn close to. That's not a bad living, And then if you do really well at the end game during the season championships or the world championships, I mean, shoot, you now have a full-time job as a professional player, and I'm really excited about that because.
Well, plus you have endorsements, sponsorships, and all that too.
Yeah, no, I mean and I think some of the sponsorships and stuff like that, they get a piece of the pie or something like that. I can't remember. I'm not entirely sure how it works. No, Bell shaking her head. She's with Method. I'll go with that. But I mean, gosh, this is becoming a legitimate sport.
FYI, in case people don't know, gaming organizations, well, the good and solid and reputable gaming organizations do not make, they don't split winnings with the winners. That is 100% the players' money. The way that the organizations make their money, or at least make enough back for what they spent on the players' housing, the travel, depending on the contract, sometimes players have a monthly salary so that they can practice and not have to have a full-time job. Their peripherals, their computers, all those things that are sponsored, organizations make that money back because sponsors, right? They want to sponsor the orgs because they want that. That's how organizations make their money back. But it's a common misconception. If it's a solid, reputable org, they should never split the winnings with the players. If they're splitting, this is for World of Warcraft, PUBG, Rocket League,
the big ones,
Street Fighter. I don't know anything about Overwatch because Method doesn't have anything to do with Overwatch. There's a good reason Method doesn't have anything to do with Overwatch, and you should probably think about that, Rem. Anyway, but
no,
yeah,
I'm
good
just
organizations should never.
No, and that's wonderful to hear because I enjoy watching Arena. I know it's a very what's the proper word? You have to have an acquired taste for it.
Yeah, it's not for everyone.
You have to understand what you're watching, and it's very fast paced. And I mean, if they could figure out a way to do team battlegrounds where they have an objective base.
We're actually going to talk about that in a little bit.
Oh,
that's on my list to talk about.
I will hold off then.
Yeah, that's on my list to talk about in the.
Let's go.
That's on the list to talk about in what we want to see. So you're 100% right. Then so you have the summer finals. The summer finals are set up the exact same way, no difference. The spring or the summer season and the summer finals are set up the exact same way. All that stuff's the same. Now for the season 3, which is the last part, this is the home stretch here. There's the same set of cups. So there's 3 NA, 3 EU, same prize money there. Also, the winning team from spring and from summer automatically get a spot to the finals, FYI.
Fair.
So, they've at least gotten that far.
So then 8.
Then, so for the final season, the top 12 teams from each cup, again, will earn those points. But the top 6 teams overall will qualify for the Arena World Championship. So first 2 seasons, 1 team each qualifies for the Arena World Championships. And then for the final one, the top 6 teams overall, will qualify for the Arena World Championships. Then, as you know,
This is really modeling after professional sports.
Yeah.
Where you have your preseason and stuff like that. Oh, gosh, I'm loving this. This is good.
There's more opportunity for all types of players to get points because there's several ways for them to be able to do that. I think this opens up the world for not your everyday guys, right?
Yeah,
Like not
smaller
the
orcs,
yeah, the smaller guys can come in and just really show what they're made of. And I think you're also going to start seeing a lot of old players come out of the woodworks, and I'm talking about players that haven't been competing in quite some time because there's a lot of money being thrown around. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some retired players come out of the woodwork, and I think it's going to be interesting to say the least, because I wouldn't even know where we would even predict. I don't even know what we would do. But I do have a beautiful graphic here, and this is the schedule for the first season that begins. The gameplay begins on the 31st of January, and they're broadcasting the top 8. So it'll be February 3rd through February 4th. This is for the EU Cup. And then the NA Cup 1 during that season is going to be February 10th and February 11th for the actual broadcast of it. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. Definitely, like, good things. The Mythic Dungeon Invitational, I'll just go over that real quick so that we can get to the fun talks regarding the esports this year. The Mythic Dungeon Invitational is, I don't know, it wasn't super fun for me to watch, but it's not because it was boring. It's because it wasn't
your cup of tea.
Just not my cup of tea. I mean,
it's NASCAR.
It was nice to see, but it just wasn't.
It's NASCAR.
PvE isn't on a competitive level, is not fun for me, but I watch it to support so that it gets the view. I watch it because we need to support World of Warcraft esports, so they keep doing it. But they're kind of changing the way that they're doing that as well. They're allowing kind of more teams with the Proving Grounds. Basically, all teams. Any team that passes through that Proving Ground stage goes to time trials. So this kind of opens up the door. They're not gating that behind any set amount. Go in and get your stuff. There wasn't a whole lot that was announced outside of, like, these are when all the things are going to go on. They haven't announced prize money. Nothing important. So when that announcement happens, we'll go over that in more detail. But they didn't give us enough for me to be super excited. But I'm glad that they're doing it for another season, and I'm happy to see that it was successful given the player feedback the first time. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Windstead. Don't you main a DK?
Negative. Well, I tank DK, and I troll as a blood DK in PvP because blood DKs are notoriously hard to kill.
And tanks belong in PvP.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said you do what in PvP? I had a flashback from when I was in Nom. I thought you said you tanked in PvP.
I enjoy bringing a tank into PvP to troll people because there's nothing more hilarious than going in with a blood DK and a holy paladin.
What was amazing was I think it was during Mist when in twos you would get those 2 blood DKs. You could never kill them.
No, you couldn't. It was hilarious.
It was amazing. It was hilarious. Yes,
it's a fun way to troll. But I don't. By no means am I serious about that.
Okay, because we were going to fight, so I'm glad that you said that. I'm happy. I'm happy that you said that we were going to fight.
I was really proud, and Belle, you should watch your mouth because it was Method that was the first to pull out a prop pally.
When Bean came out on his pally, you don't understand what happened in my house. You have no idea what happened in my house for that cup. So I stream it on, because I have the Fire Stick, so I stream it on the big screen so that I can work, because it's usually, I'm usually working. If it's like, sometimes they have them on the Fridays, I'm usually working. I jumped up on the bed and I was probably saying curse words I didn't even know my vocabulary knew. I was so angry. My very own organization. Why the fuck are you a tank in PvP right now?
Run with it.
Yeah, because it's a tank.
Yeah.
Now,
when you're going against assassin rogues, you need an extra cleanse.
However, I do believe I think in RBGs there are some situations where a tank is necessary for strategy, depending on if you need to counter the comp. If there's at least 2 rogues, sometimes you need a tank. I mean, there's several situations strategy-wise depending on what the other team has. I do agree you need to make if you have a DK, a warrior, or a paladin, I do agree you need to make them swap to tank spec because it is necessary, and Windstead knows exactly what I'm talking about. However,
before I joined the Technically PvP podcast, I ran the Rated Battleground podcast that pod faded because doing a solo podcast is hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Like Rem's all I got now, so if Rem goes, like...
Yeah. But
Bye.
Bye, guys.
but no, I am torn right now between my alter ego Winstallen for a Frostmage.
Wait, I'm sorry. What?
Comrade, you see, this is Winstallen speaking now. And Winstallen comes from Frozen North. And Frozen North is all about the frost. And so Frostmage is the chosen spec of all mage. If you do not play Frostmage, you do not play well. No. So comrade, remember. So comrade, remember, alter ego Winstallen say always play Frostmage. But I like doing funny voices. If you ever go,
I'm gonna need you for some voiceover.
No, I'd love to. I'd love to. Dark Moon Herald put out for voice, cues for their stuff, and I did an Australian, I did Russian, I did a bunch of different like funky drill sergeant. Yeah, I've got a whole fun spectrum that I like to play with.
We're gonna have to talk after the show. That was pretty amazing.
I've mained Frostmage since Burning Crusade. It's always been my go-to to go back to Frostmage, even when it wasn't good, which is painful, but I just love the Frostmage plays. Well, my wife is a tank, and she has been complaining profusely about healers when she's doing dungeons and raids and things like that. And so I went, hey, I saw the World Championships. I saw Resto Shaman killing it in arenas and stuff. And so I decided I'd go ahead and level a shaman after I got home. And gosh, dirty little secret is that I really like Resto Shaman.
Oh, it's
Shaman
fun.
is a superior heals, and it's funny because it didn't
really
used to be. It didn't used to be in PvP. No. Shamans used to struggle a lot in PvP.
No, they're not. They're not the best for the Mythic dungeons. I'm struggling to find a build and a play style that works in the dungeons, but like for raiding, for arenas,
I mean, we know a couple amazing Resto Shamans.
I've been looking at Sea-Doo. I've been looking at Sea-Doo's videos.
No, I wouldn't go to Sea-Doo for PvE advice, but
no. But I take him for PvP now. I mean, he's kind of taken over. He's
an amazing shaman, but he's a shit druid.
but
am I wrong though? Am I wrong? You've seen how he played last year. He's a shit druid.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying the Resto Shaman, and they're really strong in rated battlegrounds right now. Mm-hmm. Elemental is really strong in rated battlegrounds, which is Resto weird. Not so much.
Well, I haven't RBG'd in an entire expansion, but we've always had a Resto Shaman on our RBG team.
Whenever there's a localized node to fight over, shamans do really well because we're all about stacking and grouping, and I mean we can just do massive heals. There's a couple of raid bosses right now that like. I just take over the top of the chart when I throw down my Healing Rain, Gift of the Queen, Healing Stream Totem, and
Monk
I just
and Priests are still the go-tos for PvE healing, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I've been going very hard on my Shaman lately, doing a lot with him.
That's awesome that you're digging that vibe, though. Like, it's important to you have to fuse.
It's good to get all elements of the game.
Yeah.
When you're PvPing, you have to fuse with what you're playing. I don't actually PvP on anything but Belle, which is kind of funny. I can't bring myself to do it. I feel like I'm cheating on her if I thought about healing PvP, but I'm not built for heals, guys. I'm built to be a killer. So right now, what is the most... Let me rephrase that. What are you most looking forward to out of what was announced?
For the next expansion or for
PvP?
For the PvP stuff?
As far as eSports is concerned, really, because...
Esports, focusing in on that. I'm actually intrigued by the Mythic Dungeon system, and I really think it brings into play the whole objective-based concept that needs to be brought in. I mean, people don't watch football to see people hit each other. People watch football to watch somebody.
Is that not why they watch it?
Well, no, they watch it. Yeah, hockey. They watch it because there's an objective and there's things that people are doing to try and overcome an obstacle to achieve the objective.
The hitting each other
it's a byproduct
on the cake. Yeah,
it's a byproduct. It's like people are either really good, really like boxing and really like MMA, or they don't. There's really no middle ground, and people either get it or they don't.
Yeah.
And that's where arena is very much a boxing / MMA thing, where if you understand what you're seeing and the techniques and the abilities and the counterplays that are going on, I describe arenas as high-speed chess. You know, if you take NASCAR and chess and slam them together, you have arenas. And if you don't understand what you're watching, it's very hard to get into. But the second you put an objective in front of people that everyone can understand, i.e. the Mythic dungeon runs, getting to the end of the dungeon, people can understand that. And even if they don't understand what the tank is doing, what the tank is doing ability-wise to overcome the mechanics that he's being faced with, they understand that, hey, he just survived that. They killed that guy, and now they're one step closer to the objective.
Yeah, it's like they don't know what's going on in here, but they just killed this guy, so yes.
Yeah, no, oh, they killed that boss. They got past that pole. Oh, why are they doing, they're pulling in that extra, oh, it's because the count, this number over here goes higher. The percentage of mobs they have to kill, they just went higher. Okay, that's good. And seeing the objectives psychologically, people are drawn to goals and objectives. I mean, that's what drives us. We get a dopamine hit every time we get one step closer to the objective.
I mean, I like to scalp, so I feel like that's part of the same thing. Probably not. Maybe I made it weird, guys. Sometimes I told you I have 27 personalities. This just happened to be the darker one that emerged. I'm embracing it, guys.
Enjoy the hair.
So with the I think I don't know how I feel about that, but you mentioned what I hope is that what I'm looking forward to is Blizzard seeing how, because like when the first time the Mythic Dungeons hit, it got like 190,000 views. Right.
It was huge. It got more views than any arena tournament had ever gotten minus World Champions. And it was just for some random Mythic Invitational, just this throwaway event that they're like, this sounds
Let's test
fun.
the water. We have some extra money at the end of the fiscal year. Let's throw some money at it.
This sounds like fun. And people latched onto it because it was an objective.
Well, and because it was attainable. And when I say attainable, it's close to them because Mythic Pluses are such a big deal. And we saw there was not a whole lot of professional esports
Mythic
organizations
like that. Or
putting together these teams.
But if you were to take that same objective base and put it into the arena or put it into Battlegrounds and then start bringing in Battleground teams.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about in the What's Missing in Esports section that's in the show notes, sir.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Like you know me.
But that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to them figuring out that objective-based events. I mean, look at Overwatch. Look at League of Legends. Look at all the big
I was actually going to mention
games.
Legends, but I didn't want to.
Both of those
that's
games
a cardinal
are AIDS.
rule. That's a cardinal rule. Sorry.
Both of those games are AIDS.
Okay, well, we'll just bleep those words that I just said.
Overwatch fans are like Cowboys fans, in my opinion.
No, and I don't play Overwatch. I'm not very good at first person shooters.
Me neither.
So I enjoy them every now and then. They're a dirty little.
I'm as good at first person shooting as I am at melee.
But you notice that all the good modes that people watch are objective based. Heroes of the Storm, objective based.
Agreed.
Yeah, all the maps are objective based.
Well, so this might have been, I don't remember. There was a couple episodes where I talked about one of the things that's missing from esports, and one of the things that I would like to see, which I think you and I are on the same page with, is because I don't particularly care for arenas to play, but I like to watch them. I am about that RBG life, right? That's I like the strategy, and I like the fact that the strategy changes based off comp, it changes based off map, it changes based off not enough healers, too many healers, depending on, what you're countering. It changes, and I like that. I like that you're not seeing the same set of teams with every match, right? It's just very versatile, and I like that. Sometimes you get the 5 rogue fucking YOLO RBG in your queue, and that's just not the business. But
oh, it's an easy win though, but it's fine.
When the PvP brawls were first introduced, I had a whole like hour-long discussion about how my hope was that they are testing the water. My hope is that they're using these brawls to test the water to see if potentially they can find a specific set of PvP brawls that may or may not be winner, winner, chicken dinner for possible competitive brawls. Not 10-man, because I think it's difficult for them to try to do a 10-man.
Logistics
right?
is really hard with 10.
A 5 or 6-man, right? I think 6-man would almost be kind of like the perfect number, in my opinion, right?
The sweet spot for me would be 8.
I feel like they wouldn't be able to do it because I still feel like that's too much. But
it's a lot. But if you look at most of the battlegrounds, especially if you ever done a war game, when you do a 5, unless you specifically designed battlegrounds to be that small,
right?
You know, it's just really hard. Like even when they do the war song scramble, they shrink it.
I think that's what they're using the PvP brawls for, is testing grounds, and they're testing it in a real live environment.
I hope so.
I'm praying, right? Like that's a prayer of mine. I do, and I've talked to several people at Blizzard, like at BlizzCon and stuff like that, just on the subject of, you know, where is arenas are great. I love watching it. I love the fast pace. Like I scream, I lose my voice, I throw shit at my TV. Like my husband always knows, my kids know, just leave mom alone. She's watching PvP. Like it's not pretty.
Oh, I was there with you at the World Championship.
Oh, you guys,
we were both going nuts over it.
You got to see my crazy. That's where you saw all 27 of my personalities.
And yet I'm still here.
You weren't afraid, and you didn't try to mace me, which was awesome. I screamed, I laughed, I clapped, I cried, I jumped, I peed.
Getting through one event with her is not an accomplishment. You have to go through a lot.
I saw her in a method win and a method loss.
Yeah.
So I saw the whole spectrum. It was all there. And then Garrisar, my co-host, was rooting for the team that was playing against method.
Oh, and he's just rubbing it in, I bet.
No, he was screaming in my fucking ear. Gosh. He's screaming in my fucking ear.
Is that the guy?
I love him. Don't get me wrong. I love him. He's good people. However, my face is painted, okay?
Oh, gosh.
My face is painted. I have my method shirt on. I am in the zone. I am ready to see one of my teams make it somewhere, right? Because there's 2 of them. I'm ready to see this. Every 5 seconds, in my ear, he's screaming for the other team. And I'm like, I even snapped. I did a snap of him screaming. And I'm like, this fucking guy. Do you know who you're sitting next to? Like, don't sit next to me and root for the other team. Go to the other section. Like, this section is the you sit on the side where your team is playing. You don't sit in with the enemy camp, right? Like you just don't do that.
Comrade, when you get to know Garrisar, you understand a little bit more about the type of person Garrisar is. Yes, he is a
masochist, really, is the only other...
he is passionate man about WoW eSports. Very passionate comrade. And, you know, sometimes you just point in the wrong direction.
I got to tell you, I didn't love him then. Like, at that moment, he was not my favorite. And no. I really did. I did Snapchat. I did. I like panned over, and I was like, this a-hole. I said, this fucking guy. And then I put like ... Why are you here? All jokes aside, he's a great he's a great guy. Good people.
I love him.
He's good people, and we can root for different parties and still be friends at the end of the day. Just not during the event. Afterwards we shake hands and we be friends. But
no, it's very much the objective based PvP is really where I think Blizzard should go.
I agree. Because it's different and it breaks up the monotony of you have your same comps each season it's this, you see the same things. I mean, this last season we've seen some different things. The double DK, which was a dirty play on Method Synergy's part. I'm not gonna lie, that was a dirty pull for them to pull the double DKs, but they got the win. So I mean,
I've listened to you, and you have been just very down on PvP.
I know, it's been really sad.
And for me, I've been really up on it. I've been really enjoying the changes that they've made. Because I think more for the average player, because I'm not able to spend 8 to 10 hours playing World of Warcraft. Right. Go to my college class for the day and come home and do 45 minutes of homework and then slam out 200 arenas in a night. I don't do that anymore.
I didn't use arenas to get my gear ever. I did RBGs.
Mm-hmm. But just the fact that the aspect of it's much more accessible to the general population now with the gearing that they've done. And I know that's hurt the high-end players.
Well, it's a good thing that you brought that up, because while I do admit that Blizzard's idea, their mindset was, let's make it attainable for everyone. 100% agree, because they've done that with raids. They've done it with dungeons. All these things, they've made it where there's two sides to the coin. So we did a thing, and originally I thought, this gear's not going to be that big of a deal. And then I realized it's kind of a big deal, because I missed that element as a at this point in time prior to this expansion. All I did was PvP. I raided very little because I needed to for the guild, but every logging in was not world quests and dailies and all that. Logging in was BGs. So and I did arenas in Mists of Pandaria, but what they did is they said, okay, let's make it easy for everyone. Here's the problem with that is they took each side and melded it together, but they're not equal, and here's why. I'm going to compare it to PvE because the two are the same. We give separate gear to Mythic Raiders, right? We allow Mythic Raiders to acquire higher gear that sets them above your heroic and your normal and, God forbid, even your LFR people. So we allow the Mythic people to acquire their Mythic gear for their their grind, right? The guys that have millions of hours to play in game because they're on a Mythic team. Then you have your LFR guy who gets his LFR gear, and he's happy with that because he doesn't need much else, or your normal and whatnot. We allow the Mythic player to be able to grind to get the Mythic gear for that tier because we've pandered to two sides here. What we did in PvP is we said, we're just going to throw it all together and we're going to make RNG the sole means of PvP gearing for all levels of player. The problem with that is no matter what happens, when you do that, you're going to piss somebody off. Somebody's always going to be unhappy. But what they didn't do is they didn't look at the community as a whole. What they should have done, or attempted to do, is they should have separated it. They should have made it where there's a separate set of gear. So the RNG gear that drops now, right? The RNG gear that drops out of the boxes, and you get it occasionally from your world quests for the PvP world quests and all that. Yeah. You can even get it from missions, right? What they should have done is they should have had it where, okay, so we have the casual guy, the guy who has kids, he's got a wife, maybe he has 2 wives, I'm not here to judge. He doesn't get much time in game, but we want him to be able to get some gear, and we want him to have a good time, and we want him to play. What they should have done is that gear should be for them, or for you, for anybody really, but they should still have the gear vendor, and if you do more content and you have the time to be able to put into it, you should be able to get better gear. It shouldn't be so much gear that the players that don't have the time feel like they're getting like one shot, right? It shouldn't decimate the players that don't have that higher level gear. You know what I mean? It shouldn't like be where the players don't want to play whatsoever.
How it used to be. Yeah.
But it should be just a little bit better. And it should be just noticeably a little bit better because there's several tiers for PvE. Why isn't there for PvP? Why did we just remove the people that were serious about it and we just said, here, we're going to give you your sole means of gearing is completely RNG. Right?
And you see, the part of the reason why I like what they did with the gear is that I had an incident, and it's what actually first got me on a podcast, was the fact that I was a Blood DK. I did a lot of PvP. I would switch to, Frost or Unholy, depending on what was better at the time. And I did tanking, if I was doing PvE, I did tanking. What would happen is that I would go into raids and I was full PvP gear. And I'd get thrown out of the raid.
You should.
And so, ouch, Belle.
No.
Ouch.
And this was my point on the forums when I posted along with Venruki's post. A PvPer shouldn't try to go in a PvE situation that's an instance situation and expect to be taken seriously in that instance situation. It shouldn't be a thing. Because I can tell you that when I tried to raid with my guild in Miss Pandaria, they were pugging because we didn't have a raid team at this time. When I tried to raid with my guild in full PvP gear, I got laughed at because that wasn't acceptable. That's not what you did. So as a PvPer, you don't go into a raid in PvP gear. If you want to raid, then I suggest you go to LFR and you at least get your LFR stuff so that you can raid in normal and you step yourself up like normal individuals. As a
I don't have time.
Well, exactly right. So what do? You LFR, right? You do what you have the means to do.
Well, and here would be how I would solve it, like my idea behind it. And tell me what you think about this, is that the problem that happened is they took away the objective. I mean, it goes right back to what we were talking about like 2 minutes ago, where now all of a sudden in PvP, there was no objective. I mean, you played, you won, you lost, and then you randomly or didn't, you randomly got it or you randomly didn't, and there was no control over what your gains were in player versus player. Absolutely no control over whatsoever. And people hated it. That unless you were a person who played PvP for the PvP, it was decimating to your mental processes, because we are, as human beings, we are driven by objectives. We're all about goals. We're all about seeing that piece of loot that we really, really want, seeing what we need to do to get it, and then going through the process of getting it. And then once we get it, we're not happy. We go, cool, I finally got that. What's the next piece? And we push towards that. And I think that if they would have tied it to the prestige level, that's your power base, that instead of for every 10 item levels, you get 1% of power, for every prestige level you obtain, you get 1% more powerful.
Why? Because players can do PvP world quests and get honor to prestige. Prestige is a fucking
You're
joke.
right.
It's a joke.
You're right.
It was something to put in to make people feel pretty and to make them feel good about themselves, because you can prestige to 17 by doing fucking world quests.
And what I'm suggesting is that you actually tie that to the player's power.
I suggest
it gives
that
a
they
reason
set the
to
prestige system on fire.
But if we tied it to power level and then capped it, that every season you could go from 1 to 10. And by the end of the season, if you were prestige 10, you were 10% more powerful than the person who never stepped in. That gives you a goal to obtain.
But yet it makes the average everyday guy who doesn't have time to do that is going to cry because so-and-so has 10% more power than they do. It doesn't solve the problem. It just continues the problem, right?
But the thing is that 10% is dealable.
That's what I'm talking about with gear. I don't want the gear to be so phenomenal that, let's say you and I've been PvPing all week because I have no life, right? And you have a life, so you come in, you're maybe an hour or two a week. I don't want to one-shot you because I outgear you so bad, but I want it to matter a little, right?
And that's the important part of that. I can go and do world quests to achieve honor and get prestige that way as well. So I can maximize my time in game, have a goal to pursue, and that by obtaining that goal, then I'm now powerful enough that I can compete in a way to make myself feel valid in game. And then every season, reset it.
I like what you're saying.
And it's base concept, And it definitely could work.
I like the idea. I want my vendors back.
I do too.
I want my vendors back.
I would love some good vendors so that but the thing is that I want that gear so that then I can go do other content, because even I can get burned out on PvP. There are nights that I log on and it's just like, holy crap. Last night I logged in, I lost 7 straight games.
Nobody wants to do that.
I need a break from PvP.
Yeah.
But the problem is that if I'm tied specifically to the power of PvP gear, what other content can I do? I'm stuck. I have to start at ground zero in PvE when I'm already limited in the time I have in game.
If they're smart, they'll make it where the modes that they're allowing for PvP for the, what is it, the not the war fronts, the island expeditions, and hopefully they introduce other elements where they allow PvP to be a part of that. Hopefully that will allow players to be able to acquire whatever, you know. I would be really shocked if they didn't reintroduce PvP vendors.
No, and for me, if I would like the power level of my PvP gear to get me started at heroic.
No.
Like, I wouldn't want to be able to get
PvP and PvE gear has no business in the same universe. Has no business in the same universe whatsoever.
Well, the way they have it now is perfect, where you have different templates on
Right.
I dislike
templates, but
templates
same gear.
The templates I dislike because there's no customization. It's literally too bland. It's just bland. I have no control over the customizability.
Well,
because we don't have our gear vendors where we
but
have the different options where you have 2 chests to buy or you have 2.
And then Belle, I would like to, once I get my piece of gear that helps me just increase my base level power, I'd then like to, on an off night when I'm taking a break from my RBGs, run a Mythic 10, run a normal raid, you know, and have like there wouldn't be an issue with the PvPer taking an off night to come in for the normal raid, because the like you would be at that base level where it's like, okay, I could start the heroic, but I'd need to grind to actually get my ahead of the curve. I like the PvP gear would not carry me through to the end of the heroic raid. I'd like to be able to do the normal content, start dipping my toe into heroic, but I wouldn't expect to be able to just be a PvP master and then jump into a mythic. That's ridiculous. That's where I'm like with you on 2 different worlds there.
The good news is they give you really easy means of gearing for PvE. Like it's in being maxed out, and we're actually going to transition over to the next thing because we are like way over time. But
I know we've really been enjoying this stuff.
With world quests and the different, depending on what, like we had Broken Shore had the, what the hell with the, whatever the, I can't think of the currency off the top of my head where you can buy the gear. The nether shards, and then you have the Gorgonite / Arugula for Argus. Yeah. They really make it super easy to, I mean, in 5 minutes after Rem and I maxing out a tune, we're already ready for normal of that tier. Like it's within an hour, if that, we're already there and ready. The way that they've set up the world quests, the way that they've set up your missions, like all the different things that they allow you to get. So I understand the need for the PvEer and the PvPer to be able to coexist peacefully and be able to swap on a whim, right? I totally get and understand that. I understand not everybody has time in game. I just feel like some things should be separate, and it's okay if you're subpar at one because you're super focused on the other, right? It's okay that you're not the world's best geared raider because you're a PvPer, but occasionally you like to dabble, maybe you want to run with friends, whatever. I think that those are okay, because I don't, as a PvPer, want to go run a mythic with people because that's not what I'm into. But I might want to run a dungeon, or I might want to whatever, but I don't want, that's not my focus. So it should be an afterthought to me, right? My focus shouldn't be that. It should be an afterthought.
No, and I agree. And that's why I would say the crossover is that I should be able to carry through a normal raid with my PvP gear. Like the gear that I obtained.
I think you should be able to LFR. And I think if you want to put in the effort to be able to run that content, I think you're going to have to maybe, it's one of those nights where I hog tie my kids, right? When I really just want a game, and I hog tie the children, and I slip the husband a roofie, and I get some extra. But I get it. It's a tough balance when you want to be able to do both things. I think we're on the same page, where there does need to be a separation. Like because one of the problems that's happened in the past is that Mythic Raiders came into PvP and just smashed everybody because their eye level was so much higher that no one had a chance, you know? Yeah. And I don't want that either. And that's what's happening now.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
The problem is because you have high-end PvPers having to go into Mythic.
Yeah, they're having to do PvE, and they're like, wait, I gotta do what?
And you know what's funny though? Ben Murphy's actually really good at PvE. Like
I think a lot of them are and just don't think they don't.
A lot of PvPers are very good.
In my opinion, I feel like PvEers are better at PvP, although I'm the exception because I'm not better at PvP because I'm not better at PvE because I PvP, but I think that you have a better understanding of all the facets of your class when you PvP. So I would take, obviously if he's not geared, but I would want that guy on my team. But I do agree that I feel like they have to fix it because there's so many people that are like.
And that's why I would tie it to the prestige system. If you tie it to PvP is what makes PvP powerful. In order to get better at PvP, you have to do PvP.
Well, I mean, I'm on the same page with that regard because, for instance, I haven't even prestiged once because I have no reason or want to get the cosmetic items that you unlock. Like, I've been PvPing, but I don't care to push prestige because there's no objective that matters to me.
There's no objective in PvP right now, period.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are running along and I can see Belle's face and she's
no,
just
because
like,
I'm trying not to rage because he triggered me with the whole no reason to prestige situation and I've been really, really good not freaking out about it. Last time we talked about this, I lost my shit when it came to all the things that they've done with prestige, how they took a perfect idea, a great idea and concept and completely...
We'll save it for another time.
Well, and that's where I think it's good in concept, but it definitely needs tweaking. And I have faith in Blizzard. And when the PTR comes out for Battle for Azeroth, I am going to be in there and I'm going to be slamming down tons of suggestions and forum things and trying to get my voice heard on my because I think it's a decent idea and I'd love to get feedback from people if it's a good idea and how we can make it better.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, I agree.
So,
excuse you.
Good. It's my chair, guys. Okay, good conversation. We have to move this along rather quickly because I didn't expect. I should have known because PvP is just like that. It just is what it is. It's.
Well, yeah.
It's especially when you have passionate people that like to talk about it. Just I knew it was going to be. I should have known. So
I'm just glad that Andalin, my co-host, because I always rag on him that whenever he's on, the shows go really long. And this is kind of now counterpoint to my examination of like whenever you're on, we go for like 3 hours.
Now you have to take like half the blame. Well, a quarter of the blame since there's 3.
I don't think he listens to the show though, so I'm fine. I can just keep him in ignorance and I'm okay.
So I mean, we've pretty much already talked about the majority of the things that were important. I had random questions for you, but I feel like that those are a moot point because
we've pretty much covered everything.
Like yeah, like we've pretty much talked about all the things. Where Rem, did you want to mention the mount of the week, and then we can move into closing it out?
Sure. The mount of the week is a lot easier. I spent in total, honestly, about 3 to 4 hours farming the Dark Talent, and it is not proc for me. Also, a side note for the Dark Talent, if you're a 110, you potentially cannot see some portals, so that blows dick. Yeah. But so you just run around on level 100 or like in between 100 and 105 is what I've been doing. And I have a couple of hundreds on spread across servers, so I just, whenever I log on, I do my world quests on my priest, and then I go through and look for the portals on my alts, and no luck so far, but it's actually a beautiful mount, so I really want it. This one's a lot easier. It is the Amani Battle Bear. It is a recolor of the Amani War Bear from the old Zulamon raid. And so all you have to do is run in there. It's a lot easier because it is old content. So there's an achievement called Barely Made It, pun intended. So you go in, you have to save prisoners from each of the first 4 bosses within a certain amount of time. And they are called Akilzan, Nalarak, Janalai, and Halazi. You kill them, save the prisoners, you get an achievement and a mount. And it's a pretty badass mount. So, and we'll have a link to the informational comment on Wowhead. And yeah, kidding.
I'm trying to think if I have that or not.
I don't.
I feel like we went, when I say we, Friends of Ghost Pass, I feel like there might have been a time when we went and got that, because I was trying to think, like, as you were talking, I remember going over that stuff. So as we're closing out, Windstead, where can people listen? Tell us about your when the show comes out. Give us all your goodies.
we record every other week for technically PvP. As I said, Garrasar is the kind of ringleader of the event. And then Andolin is the current hardcore pushing for that rating guy. And then I'm the old school guy who just like, yeah, I really like PvP. Used to be good. Now I kind of suck at it, but I still enjoy it.
You're having fun.
Yeah, no, and that's the important part. And I'm Windstead, or at Windstead84 on Twitter. Feel free to drop me a line if you want to.
Or three. I'm for 3 lines.
Yeah. If you want to catch my battle tag, I'm more than willing to pass it out on Twitter. And if you want to come do PvP, I have a healer or a mage. Both I feel I'm proficient with. And I'm just down. really enjoy all things player versus player.
Windstead, spoiler alert, Windstead came to the guild right as my RBG team was exploding. And it was a really sad time for me. Yeah. I haven't RBG'd since then, actually.
That's sad.
Wait, so then you're in the guild or no longer?
No,
in the guild?
he obviously we couldn't fill his need because that's at the time that's all I was doing, right?
Worry.
And we had RBGs twice a week. That was all my focus was RBGs, and it was right at the time the RBG team completely imploded, and 90% of it was because of the racial changes that were made, and after personal issues between other people. Everybody race changed to Horde that I PvP'd with.
Don't worry.
So.
When I can race change my priest to Void Elf, everything will be just fine.
It just was a really bad time, and I haven't. But I have been.
That'll be another time that we can come on and talk about races.
Agreed. And I'm working on the RBG team as we speak. So if you guys RBG and you're interested, and you are interested in playing in the late evening times.
Why are you guys throwing shit?
And you're serious.
Are you looking for a raid leader or a battleground leader?
That depends. If me and this leader jive well, because I, although don't like to lead, I know the strategies to lead. I just don't like to be the guy that leads. I like to be, I like to be target caller. That's my thing. But,
well, I know a guy that might be willing to read. He plays a frost mage and has a Russian accent, but.
I have.
Well, that's Windstead. You're Windstead.
I have pretty much. I have pretty much an entire team minus an official leader. I've been putting that together for the last
I'm not on
couple.
the team. She hasn't asked me.
He is one of the people on the team. He's such a liar. I've been on the slide putting together people that are serious about it to make it happen twice a week. Maybe start it once a week and then see what happens.
No, but one shout I do want to give is to Belle. Because it's part of the reason that I'm even podcasting.
Aww.
You know, when I first got started, I came to her and asked for advice and got a couple of little tidbits on a couple of things to do, and it got me on the podcasting road. And so
now it's an obsession.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get onto the RBG team, so I did actually server hop.
His wife is in the guild too. She's Pally.
Well, it could be worse. You could be Lycan and get kicked off the RBG team. So, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, we will have to talk about that after the show for sure, though. But, guys.
Well, really quick, I have a question. Really quick. So, you've been super up about the PvP. Belle's been super down. Besides Prestige, what's like one of the highlights you think of for the PvP for Legion? Like one of the changes, they overhauled a lot of the background stuff. So what do you think was a good change?
I think the concept of the template was amazing. I think that inserting a template to where they could better balance, because that's the one thing that we've seen in this season, especially with the whole road to BlizzCon and everything. There were more comps played during the seasons than any other year I have ever seen.
Yeah, it's the stat effects when they affected PvE, it didn't blanket over anymore. It was a good thing for sure. I agree.
And so that template with being able to adjust and tweak and separating it from PvE, because good Lord, that
that's a whole mess trying to balance.
There was a whole mess, but with the template inserted, if they could just add a little bit of customizability,
and maybe have like a
base template,
baseline,
baseline, but you can choose like the old reforging.
Oh, don't
I would love to see a reforging system in PvP, so that because there were certain times where you were locked into certain specs because of the template, you know?
Oh yeah.
And even worse, sometimes you were locked into a single play style because of the template. Like Glacial Spike was a huge thing for a good period of time.
Yeah, when you're
all you could play
at a certain point.
But it was all you could. If you played Frostmage, you had to play Glacial Spike. If you were, but they changed it. Templates changed and they tweaked it stuff, and so then the Ice Lance build came out with the Frozen Orb spec, and that came out. But then you couldn't play Glacial Spike. And so I think if they brought in a little bit of reforging, that you were able to tweak stance so that you could customize a little bit to your playstyle, that would be better.
Yeah.
I often talk about reforging, but it's never going to happen.
I love reforging.
They went on the record several occasions and given like detail in length reasons they're never bringing reforging back. Although I understand it, I do miss it. I miss being able to be different. So I 100% agree. I do miss that as well. Maybe they'll just give us a variety of gear that'll allow us to be able to min-max different stats.
Well, and that's where I come back in, tie the power to prestige, and then give reforging.
Stop trying to make prestige happen. It's like fetch. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It was a pleasure. I absolutely enjoyed. It was nice because you held your own with PvE stuff with Rem and PvP stuff with me, and I don't know that we've ever had a guest be that versatile. Well, I mean, we haven't had many in a while, but that's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you.
And actually, it wasn't you. It was more Rem who said the magic word that causes the rage. He does it on purpose. He says certain things that he knows is going to trigger a huge emotional response because he knows I'm trying to be on my best behavior. But thank you for joining us. I had an absolute blast. Guys, as you see in his nice little box here, that is his Twitter. Go follow him on Twitter. Give him some love. Comment on the show. Tell us what you thought. He was our very first guest of our brand new format. So he got to
break the ice.
Yeah.
I was going to use that word. I was going to say like pop the cherry because, Rem's never, outside of like in or when we've had like old cast here, I don't think Rem has ever had a non old cast member guest.
You must penetrate it sometime, yes?
Is there an Australian accent we could end the show with, guys? I feel like...
Oh, crikey!
That's all you got?
What are you talking about, mate?
Oh, my God.
I mean, really? I mean, we were going through the broken shore. We ran across this insane mana addict. All he was talking about was mana crystals. I mean, crikey. It was mana crystal this and mana crystal that. All I wanted to do was get a message to a friend, and he was trying to charge me a mana crystal. I mean, crikey, mate. What the devil am I supposed to do about that? Bloody hell!
Somebody's going to tell Bloke about this episode, and I'm never going to hear the end of it. That's making me sweat. Oh, God. That was so good. Ugh. We just offended. We need to add the Australians to the list of offenses because I feel like they're now in the list of offenses. Thank you so much for joining us, and bring back Bloke. Bloke is cooking right now or doing something weird. I got a random picture of him with a fire poker and a weird Australian hat. Anyway, off topic, guys. We are going to go ahead and get on out of here. We apologize for the extremely long show. This was not intended, but sometimes when the good is good, you just got to keep going. Thank you guys so much for spending your 2 hours with us every week. We appreciate it. If you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher or anything audio related,
Spotify,
send
iHeartRadio, blah,
or
blah, blah.
Spotify, iHeartRadio, because we are on all of those. Make sure you send an email to bell@pwnecast.net. Let me know what you think of the show and our wonderful guest, Windstead. Make sure you go to Twitter, guys, and show him some love. Check out his podcast, Technically PvP. And when you go there, make sure you tell him that Pwnecast sent you. Guys, I appreciate you being here with me. Except for you, Rem.
You are pointing at me on my screen at least. So.
Am I? Oh, both of you. Guys, that's about the end of the show.
Okay.
Or like, is
Goodbye,
that it?
guys.
I figured like there was gonna.
I know if I open my mouth again, we're gonna go for another
just
30
like
minutes.
say goodbye and I'll roll out.
Okay.
Like the camera roll
Goodbye,
out.
guys. Thank you so much for having me. It was truly a pleasure. And hit me up on Twitter. Hunt for me in game. All of my characters are named Windstead. All of them.
All of mine have Bell in them, so I feel you.
Yeah. 24 characters. 24 characters. One spec of each kind. All Windstead. Bye.
So back on the esports thing, the format that Overwatch League is doing right
Ew,
now.
God, get out of here! I'm telling you, there's a reason, guys. There's a reason we don't talk about Overwatch.
Well, laddie, let me tell you a little bit about all of that going on down here. Because what you see is you got to get yourself a tankard. And once you got yourself a tankard, you can watch just about bloody anything.
I really need to learn an accent because I'm feeling like I can't find the stop stream button. I got a stream deck and I don't know how to fix it.
Well,
Donovan, where did I put the button?
My dear chap, if you find the square, it's on the screen.
Well, start stream is on the bottom right.
Yes,
Oh, it's the same
Find a
button.
small button right there, chap. You can turn it off and it will stop the stream.
It's not stopping the stream.
Oh, dear me. Then we are in quite a bit of trouble here.
Why isn't the stream stopping?
I do not know.
We have
Like you said,
technical
we're breaking the ice.
But I thought
Wow,
this.
this is damn
It's still going.
Cheerio.
I'm pushing the
Cheerio.
button and it's not.
Courtney. Oh,
Shit.
hell. Courtney, bud.
Hold on, we have technical difficulties
Bloody
with the
hell.
fancy new stream
Easy.
deck. Shit.
Courtney. Gosh. I'd have to work my tongue out.
Whoa.
lady.
So it's why is it not like also stopping the stream?
I mean, it looks stopped to me, but apparently they can still hear us.
It's still going.
I don't know how to stop
Courtney.
it. Shit.
Oh, gosh. Hey, governor, get the bloody hell out of my way, governor.